Good morning, everyone. Another episode of 10 at 10. Thank you guys for being on. Thank you for the guys who are going to watch on the replay. Appreciate you so much. We're going to focus for the next couple of weeks on establishing your financial structure, personal, business, understanding your profitability, understanding the business owner as we're making that move. The world is changing. It's upside down. So whether you're reestablishing or you're starting from scratch, how do you muscle up? So today our guest is going to be Bill Vlahos. He's a partner at Jackson Square Financial, and he's going to share with us. I'm excited to get started. So let's go. Good morning, everyone. Paula Mattisonsierra, Power Marketing SF. Thank you so much for joining in. I think this one's a really important one today. So this morning, we're going to have on our show Bill Vlahos. He's a partner at Jackson Square, 24 years in this crazy market. I mean, two crazy economical downturns and a big old pandemic. Bill, thanks for being on the show this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Prior to this, I think I've only heard the word pandemic used in like disaster movies. So it's been a ride. It's actually kept us awake and very youthful the last couple of years. That's all I'm going to say. Before I get started, I just want to let you guys know because we are going to be diving into this 4-part series the next couple of weeks for all of April. I just want to go ahead and state right ahead that the advice and the discussions here are by no means meant to be a client advisor a relationship. So this is just a starting point. We just want to be of service and offer you this information. So, Bill, the last few years have been crazy. How have you been working with your clients? There must have been a lot of changes there.
There has, and you're right. I think the last pandemic was right about 100 years ago, so it's probably a once every 100-year or so event. I think the good news is that while stocks go up and down, and recession is a natural part of the business cycle, the U.S. economy historically has been very resilient, and we've been through World War I and II, and Watergate, and Vietnam, and 9/11, and from the stock market perspective, stocks still have averaged about 9.5%, 10% over 100 years, and businesses recover. Although, as you alluded to, there's a lot more challenges.
Yeah.
I think there's 3 basic things a business owner should get squared away right away, and that's their risk management. Is making sure that their assets are protected, because nobody wants to lose their assets unnecessarily. So the first is everyone should have an umbrella policy. Everybody. And it's very inexpensive. An umbrella policy will protect someone from, unforeseen events. For example, we have a client who's, hit a pedestrian at night, wasn't drinking, just didn't see him. Pedestrian was a plastic surgeon. All of a sudden, there's a huge lawsuit. So everyone should have an umbrella policy. They're extraordinarily inexpensive for about $3 million.
Okay.
Second thing is everyone should make sure they have the right amount of life insurance, especially if they have children or dependents. Once again, very inexpensive. And the third thing that everyone should consider having is a long-term care plan to provide for them when they're older. You don't need to write a big check. Just making premiums every year till 65 generally works great, and it's the biggest hole we see in people's financial lives.
Yeah, absolutely. But so what sort of things should uh, besides insurance, is there anything that we should be doing, anything else that we should be thinking about from the zero standpoint?
Yeah, I think when people establish or a business or they're thinking about risk management, they should make sure they have all the right structures in place. So I'm not a lawyer, I'm not going to give legal advice, but they should make sure, what kind of business entity makes sense. Is it okay to be a sole proprietor? My dad has a business at Fisherman's Wharf. For him, sole proprietor worked just fine. For other people, especially those businesses with more liability, they should consider an S corp or a C corp or an LLC. But making sure that a business owner is talking to their counsel, making sure they have the right legal structure is critical.
One of the things that I always worry about when I speak to my owners, the trend right now is LLC. So they jump on that without speaking to an attorney. And is just simply choosing an LLC always the best for your tax liability
No.
for
But
everyone?
once again, I'm not a lawyer and giving legal
Oh, yeah,
advice.
of
But
course.
no, LLCs make sense for a lot of people, probably the majority, but there's different tax and legal implications for different sorts of structures. So everyone should invest that hour or two with their counsel and determine what structure, because the LLC may be superfluous. There may be other strategies that are more appropriate depending on their business structure. So no, you shouldn't just assume that LLC is right for you.
Yeah, and it's I wanted to make sure that I kind of said that and hear your opinion on it. Again, we're not legal here, but you're dealing with your clients a lot, and you're seeing that financial ramification on the tax side. You know, this other question came to me from a client of mine, so I wanted to ask you: should estate planning be part of it? Um, uh, Especially if you're single? I mean, does it matter if you're single to have an estate plan?
It actually matters more. So what happens
Oh,
is, if God
okay.
forbid something happens to you and you pass away, I think we're all going to pass away. But if something happens to you,
I'm gonna live forever, Bill. That's
no,
all this.
you're off to a good start. You look so young. So if you pass away and don't have a will or a trust, and you have assets that are worth more than 150,000 through a house, financial assets, cash in the bank, your estate will go through what's called probate, and the state of California will decide what happens to your assets. So imagine like the DMV deciding what's going to happen to your assets. So,
That's
and if you're single, it's especially important because you may or may not have a natural heir. So, say if you're single and don't have kids, well, there could be this big jump ball between all your relatives, even if they're well intended, because there's no clear plan on what happens to them. Um, and so everyone who's got at least 150,000 should do some basic estate planning. Generally, just a simple trust will work great. It's generally they're revocable. They can be changed at any time, and you start to own your assets, including your business, in the name of your personal trust. Now, as a part of that estate planning process, the estate planning attorney will also have you detail your durable health powers. So if God forbid something happens to you, who makes those decisions about sustaining you or medical needs? And generally now hospitals are especially afraid of litigation. So I told my wife I want her to make sure she pulls that cord and or that plug. But regardless, it's important to have estate planning done, and you don't need to have a big complicated estate plan. If you're of significant wealth, the more advanced estate plans can work out great, but everyone should have, who has 150,000 of assets, should have even just a basic estate plan.
So it's what I'm hearing here. There's more of a strategy here. So it's not just making money and saving, because eventually you're not going to be able to make that type of money anymore because you're just further along. Your career will change. So it's more than just saving.
Yeah, I think just being thoughtful about having a long-term care plan, having an estate plan, like these solutions are generally very inexpensive, but you just have to put some thought into it. And making sure that everything's lined up, because no one wants to lose no one wants to go backwards in life. No one wants to lose what they've achieved, or have a big financial meteorite come out of left field and wipe them out. And these things are very simple to do and very inexpensive.
And now that we're talking about estate planning, creating some kind of list, like this is what I want, your wishes laid out. What happens if you have a business and something either happens to you or your partner? I mean, I know we're doing a 4-part series, guys. So Ed Gines is going to go deeply into business next week, but this is so tight. Your business is you as a business owner, right? So what
That's
happens in that instance?
Well, that's a great question. So say you have a partner And you generally, what people do who are business owners or have a law firm or an architecture firm or whatever, is that they'll have what's called a buy sell agreement. So if something happens to one of the partners, there's provision. So you may have a partner, and God forbid something happens to this partner, you may or may not want to be in business with their spouse,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is exactly gonna happen. You may want to be in business with their spouse, but you want to have all this spelled out. So what's a very common planning tool is what's called the buy sell agreement. So if I own, say, an architecture firm and I have a partner, and if something happens to me on my death, the partner will buy out my shares, and usually there's life insurance in place to pay for it. So the partner doesn't necessarily come up and write a big check, but that's already been pre-funded and it's already been set up in advance. So buy sell agreements are very common. Succession planning. If you don't have a partner, you still want to think about, well, who's going to take over this business? Like, do I have a manager? Do I have an industry contract? Will it just go away? Who are going to pay these liabilities? These are just things that people want to think about. And once again, these solutions are not necessarily expensive or that complicated, but it's important to be mindful of them.
I love it's almost like developing this beautiful checklist, life financial checklist that you can just, as you said, they're very easy. They're not huge boulders to get over. So you can just simply put it on your list and start checking it off. Okay. Um, what sort of things should we think about as we're thinking about reducing our taxes? We kind of hit upon it a little bit when it came to your business structure, and choosing the right business structure will also be part of that as well. But what other things should we be thinking about?
So generally, it's important to have a really good CPA, making sure that you are getting all the deductions that you're eligible for. Going back to our original comment, having the right structure,
Mm.
having good books and records, good bookkeeping services, just basically having a team of good professionals around you to make sure you're taking every possible tax deduction that you're eligible for. Depreciating certain assets might be able to be depreciated. There's a lot of things that you wouldn't necessarily think. Home office deductions, your car. There's a lot of things that people may not realize that are tax deductible, but that's one of the advantages of being self-employed is a lot of times they can be.
Now, I was speaking to a client of mine last week, and his wife still does the taxes. And so I said, it's like, oh, I know that you guys have the big warehouse with the office there. Well, I didn't realize you did that much work at home as well, and that you guys have an office at home as well. So you took that off your taxes, right? And I heard that mental, you know, it's like, and I said, you got to get yourself. I know that when you guys were small, it made sense because you had to do a lot by yourself, but it's time to get specialized. And I love that you just said that, Bill, by the way, about getting a great CPA. The one that kills me is in this day and age, people don't know their bankers. And I know banks are going through their own little world, but just to walk in and say hello. So if there is an issue, you can walk in and have someone to work with, or do you have a financial planner like Bill? Or are you trying to figure out everything by yourself? So specialized help is, will pay for itself a million times over. Um, I have my other question to you, because again, I'm coming from this point of view, Bill, of being so curious about everything. Are 401ks, I always think of 401ks as big companies, that excludes the business owner. Does something like that make sense for a business owner, a founder?
Yeah. So generally within that broader family of what we call qualified pension plans, it's
Yeah.
generally the best thing you can do to reduce your taxes. So, we could do a whole hour on this, but in some, consider one of these qualified pension plans. And that family includes SEPs, which oftentimes work best for people with no or one employee. You can do what's called a self-employed 401k plan. So that includes there's profit sharing, and then there's what's called cash balance plans where people can put even substantially higher amounts of money in. So basically, in a nutshell, that you can shelter between 25% of your net income up to 30 to 60,000, sort of these conventional plans. And with the more complicated cash balance plans, people can put up to 200,000. And those contributions are tax deductible. So they're just deducted from your taxes. The assets grow tax free. You need to start generally taking the money by the time you're 72 and a half, but you only need to take it, some proportion based on your life expectancy. So generally, this broader family of qualified pension plans is the best thing people can do to reduce their taxes, and also adds to employee happiness and satisfaction. If you are recruiting employees, they're typically going to expect to see a 401k plan. And you can either make a match for those employees or not. I'm not going to get in that whole level of complexity, but they can make a lot of sense if you're matching or not for employees. So the answer is absolutely.
I say call Bill for more details on this if you're in this place. But given what has happened in the world the last couple of really weeks, I can't like go through this interview without not talking about banks. But how safe are banks? A bank deposit, is it still a good vehicle to place your reserves in? And
Well,
also, by the way, second question, how much can I keep in that reserve?
yeah. So the answer is that the government has said that they are going to backstop Silicon Valley Bank. It seems likely that they'll do this for others, but the answer is, out of abundance of caution, you should never have more than $250,000 in a bank account per person, and that you're protected by the United States government. Now, on top of that, there's all kinds of other solutions. A common one, and we had many clients add money to their account, and we simply bought US treasuries, which are even safer than banks because those are guaranteed by the US government.
Okay.
Tax exempt or municipal bonds can make a lot of sense for people. So the answer is, out of abundance of caution, don't ever keep more than 250,000 in any one bank in one name.
Okay. All right. And well, what does the process look like working with someone like you? It's, we literally have created a checklist without thinking about it of things that these are the things you ought to do to get yourself started right off the bat. But what does it look like when they have someone like you in and you're creating a system for protection?
So, basically, we start at the beginning. We sort of, like in your interview, we want to make sure that everyone, first of all, has all their risk management lined up, that their assets are not going to be at risk. So that's the first thing we do. And then we kind of go down the food chain of, helping them with investment management, tax deductible pension plans, estate planning. So for some clients, we basically do everything for them and their business. We do personal work and corporate work in terms of um, insurance policies, qualified pension plans. And some clients, we may just do one thing. They may need a long-term care plan, and they're pretty much set in other parts of their lives. But for all clients, we go through this checklist, and we may help them with a wide variety of things, or we may only help them with one thing. It really depends on what they need and what they want.
Yeah, this is such an interesting area. This has always been such an interesting area to me. But how did tell me more about you. I mean, there was so much to talk about, Bill. We went right into the information. Tell me a little bit more about you, because I kind of hinted earlier about your 24 years, maybe plus experience, and how did you start this business?
So I grew up in San Francisco. My parents were born in San Francisco. My grandparents came over from Greece. Grew up in San Francisco, went to school at UCLA, and I started doing this pretty much right after I graduated. I
Wow.
can't really explain why. I just was always interested in it. When I was in college, my mom was sick, and we needed to do some estate planning. And my dad, who's a grocer, didn't really feel comfortable, so I got involved in that. And he needed some help. He was a good saver, and he was a smart person, but he needed some help making his assets grow. So I got interested in the whole field, and I just made a profession of it. And then I was fortunate to join this wonderful firm, Jackson Square. Um, and then I have two kids. I have a boy who's a junior in high school. He's a lacrosse player committed to the Naval Academy.
Oh,
And I have a
wow.
daughter who's a freshman who's
It's a
on her
big
way with
deal.
my wife to Chicago for a volleyball tournament. And we live in San Francisco.
I love
And
that.
then I also do some expert witness work
Oh,
uh, in the financial advisory field.
getting into the Naval Academy, that's a huge deal. I know that they don't take many kids.
Well,
I
he's
hear
overcome his parents.
But I feel my mom always says, it's us going through it and then raising up everyone a bit at a time. So it's nice to climb on to someone like your shoulders to the next level, because you've already been through it, right? So if someone wants to get in touch with you to hear more, to connect with you, how are they gonna do that, Bill? Because we shared a wonderful. I mean, I'm going to be rewatching this, taking some notes, making my checklist, making sure that I have all of those things completed. How can someone stay in touch with you?
They can just send me an email at bvlahos@jsfin.com, or just connect with me on LinkedIn. I think you and I are connected. So that's an easy, just send me a message on LinkedIn, and we're happy to help.
What this question just came to me now, but if you are going to say any, like, start, like, what can someone do right now today? They've listened to us, they've heard about my checklist that that's going to be my first thing. But what should someone do right now that you suggest? Like,
I would say take
fire.
care of your risk management first. Make sure that there's no meteor that can come and wipe you out. Make sure you have your life insurance. Make sure you have long-term care. Make sure you have an umbrella policy. First of all, like they say in the medical profession, do no harm. Like, make sure all your risk management things are lined up first, and then you can think about growing your assets and managing your investments well, and starting a pension plan. But I would make sure that that you're safe and secure and your assets aren't at risk to start.
Uh, Great information. I feel like we could have gone on for like a bit. And I know we had to kind of curtail because what Bill has shared here is more of a discussion around it, right? And I'm going to push you guys to educate yourself, read more, reach out to people like Bill and get to know him. Thanks so much for this, by the way. So, again, if you want more information, please check Bill out on LinkedIn, connect with him there so that you can easily access him. And of course, if you need more marketing information, because I'm part of the profitability room as well, reach out to me. Our continued mission, as always, why would a marketer offer these shows? To keep you moving forward, because marketing and operations is a love story. And so it allows me, through my great referral network, to introduce to you my great referral partners like Bill, who shares their expertise. And of course, I share marketing advice as well to inspire and up-level you. So hopefully we pushed you forward today. The show airs every Thursday at 10 a.m. This is a live show. This is not pre-recorded perfectly. This is a live show. So thanks again to viewers. You continue to amaze me with all the things that I see you guys doing out there. And I wanted to close the show with a quote from, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, that says, the rich don't work for money, they make money work for them. So I want to really throw that out there to you guys as your mantra, as you're starting from zero and moving in with your business and your life. Bill, thanks again for being on the show and for your time. I appreciate you, sir. And for everyone, thank you again. And of course, as always, keep moving forward.